Greetings, fellow men. Servus Männer. It's Red Pill Germany again, and today I want to talk about feminism, racism, and the Oktoberfest. So I'm actually more or less paraphrasing a blog of my favorite German blogger, Don Alfonso, who writes for the Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, FAZ, in two blogs at the moment. One is Pillars of Society, die Stützen der Gesellschaft, and the other one is Deus Ex Machina. And this guy is really great. Maybe I will introduce him in another video one day. I mean, he writes a lot about internet feminism, third wave feminism, and basically class differences. I mean, he's a pretty rich guy. He inherited a lot of money, and he is a pretty reactionary guy. But he still doesn't shut up, and this is what pisses off a lot of people in Germany, and this is why I religiously read his blog. It's very entertaining, very awesome. Anyway, so the thing is that a couple of years ago, a young feminist wrote for a communist newspaper in Germany that, this year's Oktoberfest there were 10 cases of rape, and then she just made up a number of estimated unreported crimes, the dark figure so to speak, of 200 cases. And then other media in turn, they quoted her on that number, but the problem is that this number was completely out of her imagination. There is no basis for this number, and the police said that there is no way that there were like 200 rapes at the Oktoberfest back then, right? But since then, the pressure became more and more on the police in Munich, where the Oktoberfest takes place every year in mid-September. Because the narrative is, of course, that rape culture is based on white, straight, parenthesis Christian also, patriarchy, right? And that we are the proponents of rape culture, you know? And so the Oktoberfest is basically the Christmas of straight white men, and this is why all the rapes must be somehow there, right? This narrative is very popular, and so they just make up a gigantic number of unreported cases. So this year actually the police responded to all that pressure, and they actually did take a very much closer look on the rape cases or the cases of harassment, and they published a document where you can read now about all the cases that happened during this year's Oktoberfest. And I have to say the pressure became so high because in the beginning of the year at New Year's Eve, as you can remember, all over Germany, but it was most reported in Cologne, Arab and African youths or young men committed a lot of harassment and rape in Germany in that one single night. So in Cologne alone, there were 450 reported cases of harassment and rape just at the Cathedral Square. So of course the German left-wing feminists who say that rape is only committed by straight white men had to say that at the Oktoberfest it's much more than 450. And these 450 cases, that's not real rape because brown people did that. Okay. So, and because of this year in autumn, the police in Munich had a closer look. And the result is really funny. And the fact that the feminists and the mainstream media are not reporting about these numbers already lets you know in what direction this will go. Alright, so there have been 31 cases of sexual harassment / rape, and it was just 21 last year, so it is actually a 30% increase, you know? So they could have written about that. Out of these 31 cases, I think 18 of the guys who did that were actually caught, you know, so you could write about that. And actually, because people are afraid of terrorism now, there were less visitors to the Oktoberfest. Only in quotes, 5.6 million people during 17 days. And this is less than last year, so the feminists could have written, 30% increase in rape, considering it was less visitors this year. Wow, rape epidemic in Munich. But for some reason we didn't read that headline in the news, and the reason is the following. Out of the 18 people who were caught, 16 were not German. 6 out of those were asylum seekers. Out of the two German guys who committed harassment slash rape, one of them assaulted another man orally. I mean, I've never heard about that, but well, why not? I mean, there is nothing that doesn't exist, I guess. So, um, of course, these numbers cannot be generalized to rape statistics. I mean, it's not scientifically relevant or significant. However, let's for the moment do what the feminists do. So, out of 18 rapists, 16 are not German at a place where a lot of Germans are. And out of the two Germans, one is gay. Of course, you didn't read about that in the news. It's just crazy that this blogger just then writes an article about that, and the entire mainstream media, they have been building up pressure up to the Oktoberfest to the extreme. And now the Oktoberfest is over and we have the numbers. Uh, they act as if it never, well, we were never talking about the Oktoberfest. But I'm pretty sure that they will not forget their narrative about evil, straight, white Christian males who do all the raping, right? So just to give you some perspective, these are 5.6 million people, predominantly white, and they come together to get hammered over the course of 17 days. And nobody was killed there. Only 450 people or something were arrested by the police for crimes. 450 out of 5.6 million. And all of them were partying and being heavily drunk. So imagine that in any other place of the world. I mean, maybe the Japanese could also pull it off in a disciplined way, but I think in other countries, in many other places of the world, it would end in bloodshed after the first half hour or something, right? And all these Germans coming together, getting hammered and being relatively peaceful and civil. I mean, that is how I would spin this story, but nobody asks me to write an article about that. So I think this proves it once again. I mean, this is a party where predominantly white people come together to celebrate a traditional German festival. Yeah, 16 out of 18 sex offenders are foreigners. 6 of them are asylum seekers, quote unquote asylum seekers. Do I even have to tell you guys more? And just like in the US right now, if something doesn't fit the liberal narrative, it's just ignored. No one talks about it. And if you talk about it, oh, you're in the basket of deplorables, of course. But the most funny story for me was actually this oral rape assault. I mean, maybe the other guy was really drunk and he couldn't defend himself. It's pretty gross. I mean, oh my god. Some gay German orally assaulted another person. See, and 50% of the German sex offenders were gay. Isn't that fun? Okay, out of the two. So, of course, again, you cannot generalize these numbers. It's a very small sample, but, well, the entire group of people who celebrated was 5.6 million. So, that just tells you how relatively safe Germany still is. Well, as long as you're not, at the cathedral in Cologne at New Year's Eve, that is, of course. So as long as you are at the center of white European culture, you are relatively safe. But if you're surrounded by immigrants, maybe you're not so safe anymore. That is something Europeans should really think about. Oh, and by the way, I have never been to the Oktoberfest. I don't really like it. It's too many people for my taste, and I like smaller festivals actually. Yeah, the crowd is just a little bit too much for me, and maybe I'm too old now anyway. So I hope you liked that one, and see you guys again soon. Have a great day. Servus, Kameraden.